Hi everyone, welcome back to BeeHive Language. I'm Gary and let's get into today's class. So first of all, let's have a look at our topic for today. So today we're looking at comparatives and superlatives. All right. So you may not be familiar with these words, all right? So comparatives almost has the word compare in that word. So we know that to compare means if you have two things and you want to talk about some similarities or differences, you are comparing. So this is basically what a comparative does. It compares two things, okay? With superlatives, we use this to compare if we have three or more things to compare, okay? So three or more things to compare. All right, so let's have a look at the grammar rules, okay? And we're going to build our vocabulary as we go through. So let's have a look first. We need to split comparatives and superlatives into three different sections or parts. So the first section or part we're going to have a look at is we're going to have a look at one-syllable adjectives, okay? One-syllable adjectives. So, we remember that a syllable means that these are shorter words, okay? So let's can you tell me some examples of one-syllable adjectives? And today, I want to focus our adjectives on adjectives that we would use to describe people, okay? Just for the purpose of this class, but of course you can use any adjectives, okay? So, let's start off with some simple ones. Tall. Short. Old. Young. Okay? And if you wanted to talk about somebody's hair, for example, you could use the word short again, and we can also use the word long. If you wanted to talk about somebody's body shape, like me, you would probably say fat. If you wanted to talk about somebody else, you might say that they are slim or thin. Okay? And of course, we can use some simple words like big and small. Okay? Talk about size. So, if we want to make a comparative with a one-syllable adjective, there is a rule that we have to follow, okay? So, what rule is that? And it's very simple, actually. All we need to do is we need to add ER to each of these adjectives. So, for example, tall, we just add ER, and then, of course, we need to add the word then to show it's a comparison, okay? So, for example, I am taller than my father, okay? And the same goes for all of these words. But when we have a word like fat, okay, we have to double the T, okay? So we say fatter than. So, can anybody tell me why do we have to double the T? The reason is, at the end of the word, so we're talking about the last two letters, right? The last two letters, we have a vowel followed by a consonant, right? So our vowels are A, E, I, O, and U, and all the other letters are consonants, T, S, etc., okay? So when we have this situation, we must double it. So for example, big, it's the same situation. We have one vowel and one consonant. So we have to double the G. Now with three-letter words, it's quite easy, okay? But old, we don't need to because this is consonant and consonant. So we don't double. But with a word like slim and thin, they have the same thing as with fat and big. So the last two letters, we have I, which is a vowel, and then we have M, which is a consonant. Okay? So we have to double the M. We would say slimmer with another M then. And the same with thin. We need to double the N and say thinner than. Okay? Alright, so now that we understand how to use our one-syllable adjectives, okay, let's see if we can make some simple sentences. Alright? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you an example, and then I want you to make your own sentence, and I'm going to tell you which adjective I want you to use. So for example, I would say, I am older than my brother. I am older than my brother. So, can you use the adjective young to make a similar sentence? Have a try. Okay, great. So, let's move on. Now I want to have a look at what we call Alright, so now we have two-syllable adjectives ending in Y. That means that the last letter of these words must be Y. So, can you give me some examples of two-syllable adjectives ending in Y? I'll give you a couple of examples to start off with. Okay, if I was talking about somebody's hair, for example, and somebody's hair is like this, we can say that he or she has curly hair. Yeah? Okay, so can you tell me some other two-syllable adjectives ending in Y? Alright, let's get a little bit risky here. We can also use a word like sexy. Okay? And we can also use some other words such, I'm trying to think of some about describing people. Okay, so let's just leave it with, and another one would be ugly. Okay, but that's not a very nice thing to say. So when we have this situation, what do we need to do to make our comparative? So here we add er, and sometimes we need to double the last consonant. Alright? But when we have two-syllable words ending in Y, what do we need to do? So, it's very simple again, but we need to cross out our Y and change it to I. And we add er plus then. Okay? So for example, my sister's hair is curlier than mine. Okay, my sister's hair is curlier than mine. Alright, and you would do the same thing with these words. Okay, you might say Marilyn Monroe is sexier than Elle Macpherson. Or you can use different people. Okay, and of course we know how to use this. So let's go on to our last one, which is when we have two or more syllable adjectives. Okay, so now we're looking at two or more syllable adjectives. Okay, so in this situation, we need to first let's look at some vocabulary we can use here. Okay, so looking at two or more syllable adjectives. So first of all, if a boy is very good looking, right? What word can you use to describe him? All right, I hope that you have thought of the word handsome. Okay? Handsome. All right. But if a girl is very good looking, we say she is beautiful. Okay? All right. And can you think of some other two or more syllable adjectives that we would use to describe a person? All right? Look, there's lots and lots of options here, but I'm just going to give you one or two more. For example, we can say attractive. Okay, attractive is a word that means similar to this, but you can use it for both men and women. Okay, we'll leave it at 3 for now. Alright, so when we want to use 2 or more syllable adjectives to make a comparison or to make a comparative, what rule should we follow? Okay? We should follow this rule. Okay? We need to add the word more here. So we say more handsome than. Okay? More beautiful than. And more attractive than. Alright? So, don't forget, it's a common mistake, and even native speakers of English often make this error. They use more here. They either say more tall or more taller. Now you don't need to use it here, and you shouldn't use it here because it's grammatically incorrect. So make sure that you're only using more with 2 or more syllable adjectives. And if it's 2, like handsome, make sure it doesn't end in Y. Because if it does end in Y, we need to follow this rule here. Okay, so again, I want you to do a little bit of practice. So let's start with our 2 syllable adjectives ending in Y. Okay, so I gave you the example that my sister's hair is curlier than mine. So how about if you use the word ugly? Can you make a sentence using that word? Have a try. Okay, so I would say that I am uglier than my sister. My sister is quite beautiful, so I can say I'm uglier than my sister. Alright, and here when we have 2 or more, we need to follow this system here. So more plus the adjective plus than. Okay? So, for example, I can say I am more handsome than my father. I am more handsome than my father. So, can you make a similar sentence using the word beautiful? Have a try. Okay, great. So, your sentence should be something like, I am more beautiful than my mother. Well, I'm not beautiful because I'm a boy, but just to give the example sentence. Okay, so we want to be able to put all of these things together, okay? So what we're going to do next is I'm going to put some pictures up of some famous people, and I'm going to write in some characteristics of those people so that you can compare and also try to use some superlatives. But we're going to do it one step at a time. So I'll see you again soon. Okay, so earlier today we learned about comparatives, okay? So let's do an activity so that we can practice using the grammar in a sentence, okay? So as you can see behind me, I have a very nice picture of David Beckham, okay? If you don't know who David Beckham is, he's a famous football player, or he was, because he's retired now. And over this side, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? He's much younger in this photo than he is now, okay? But this is when he was young, and he was Mr. Universe. So when he was Mr. Universe, that means that his body was the best in the world. The strongest, the most muscular. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write some information up about each of them, okay? So here's our split. On this side will be David, and on this side will be Arnold, okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to look at making some sentences to compare that information between the two. Now, I'm just going to make up this information, okay? So if you look it up and you find that I'm wrong, okay, but for the purposes of the class, it doesn't matter, okay? We just want to be able to compare, because Arnold is about 65 now, and obviously in this photo, he is not. So let's get started. All right, so first of all, let's start with their age, okay? So we're going to have a look at age. So how old is David Beckham? Well, I'm not really sure, but we're going to say that he is 37, okay? And in this picture, Arnold is quite young. So in this picture, Arnold's age is 29. Okay? So if we wanted to use our comparative, all right, can you remember the structure? Okay? So we would say David, okay, I'll write his name up here for you so you can remember. David. Over here we have Arnold. Okay. So say David is older than Arnold. Okay? David is older than Arnold. But what if we reverse the sentence and we want to talk about Arnold first? So how would we do that? Can you do that by yourself? Have a try. Hopefully, what you would have said is Arnold is younger than David. Okay? So let's go to our second piece of information. All right? So next we're going to have a look at height. Okay? So we're going to have a look at height. So this means how tall is that person? Okay? So David Beckham is actually fairly tall, but he's not very tall. So David Beckham is 182 centimeters tall. But Arnold is a little bit taller. Arnold is 186 centimeters tall. So if you remember the adjectives that we learned earlier, okay, you would say that Arnold is taller than David, right? And again, if I wanted to reverse the sentence and talk about David first, how would I do that? Have a try. Great. So what you should have said is David is shorter than Arnold. Okay, let's add another piece of information. This time we're going to look at the weight, all right? So I think you can already see who is bigger, right? So the weight of David Beckham is, he is 84 kilograms, okay? He is 84 kilograms. What do you think he weighs? He's a big boy. Okay, so Arnold is a big man and lots of muscle. And as we know, muscle is heavy. So we can say he is 116 kilograms. It's pretty big. All right, so here we want to use the word heavy. Okay? We want to use the word heavy or light. All right? So I can say Arnold is heavier. Remember, two syllables ending in Y. We cross out the Y, change to I, add ER, heavier, right? So Arnold is heavier than David, right? So use the word light to say David first. Have a try. Okay, good. So you should have said David is lighter than Arnold. Okay? All right. So I think that you can look at this information, and what I want you to do now is make a slightly more complex sentence. Okay? So this time we're going to use the word but for comparison. Okay? So if you look at the height of these two, they are both tall. Do you understand? So they are both tall. So you can say David is tall, but Arnold is taller. Okay? So this is when you have two things that are similar, but you want to say one is a little more than the other. Okay? So if you wanted to compare here, okay, we can again use this way. Okay? But I want to say the difference is bigger. So I can say David weighs 84 kilograms, But Arnold weighs much more. He is 116 kilograms. Okay? So, I hope that that helps you to understand how to use comparatives. And when I come back, we're going to add a third picture into here, and we're going to look at using superlatives closely. See you soon.